Good evening. I'm Socrates, Garrett, and we're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi, the heart of the Deep South, right here in the African-American-owned broadcasting studio. We believe digital.com, our own platform. And so it's critically important that in the African-American community, we control the narrative. I look forward to receiving opportunities to show and advertise your products for goods and services and to move your brand along in this community. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. When We Believe Digital Podcast, go to Roku and download our app, and We Believe Global, with shows like this to bring articulate, intelligent conversations and dialogue to our platform. So I'm here to continue sounding the alarm. This is how the South is going to rise again. Good evening and welcome to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live right here from Jackson, Mississippi, in the heart of the Deep South. Mississippi, a troubled state. We're in the national headlines almost every day. I was looking at the front page of the Mississippi Link newspaper a few moments ago, and I saw Ben Crump's picture above the fold on the front cover of the paper. That means when you see Ben Crump, there's something going on wrong. There's something bad that has happened to somebody, because he just doesn't come down here to visit and meet with relatives. He comes down here to get something done. Him and Trent Walker over there in Rankin County, they're dealing with some tremendous issues over there that had to do with the young man in Rankin County that got assaulted by the police officers, and the chief of police, Bailey, said he didn't know anything about it. But we know that lieutenants and ground soldiers only do what they are instructed to do. They follow orders, and sometimes they will act out, but for the most part, they do what they've been trained to do. Now, if you're watching us on Facebook, then we want you to share this program with your friends and family and send us stars. We're beginning to get an increase in the number of people that are supporting the program, either by sending us stars or sharing this program with others, and we really do appreciate that. Our followers are growing every day. If you're watching us on YouTube, then go on and subscribe to the program. We are in the middle of a subscription campaign, and we're doing extremely well. You know, I was looking at some numbers the other day, and I saw that We Believe Network has more subscribers than some of our major churches in the neighborhood, and we're just 3 years old. Not quite 3 years old. And so in the first 2.5 years, we tried to figure out who we wanted to be. And so now that we got a pretty good idea about that, we're well on our way to becoming that person, that station that means something in the African-American community. So if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead on and subscribe. Enjoy all of the shorts and the reels, where our producer, Chelsea Thomas, here in the studio is doing an excellent job bringing you great content, and our person out in Dallas, Texas, Lisa Henry Harper, is chopping up all of these videos and putting these reels and shorts out there, and we are beginning to see some tremendous numbers. If you take a look at what has just happened recently with one of our shows called The Audit, with the guest host being Curtis Williams, a young man that works very closely with us. I looked at his numbers just before coming on the show, and he's at 750,000 views. And the comments are just off the chain, going back and forth about what's wrong in America, what's wrong in Mississippi and the rest of the world. So we have that kind of footprint. Now, if you're watching us on WeBelieveDigital.com, we want you to go ahead on and hit the donate button, and we want you to share this program with your friends and family. If you're online and you want to look at the print edition of the Mississippi Link newspaper, which is also part of this network, then you may go to themississippiLink.com and enjoy all of the stories there. Now, we're going to get right at it, as we always do. So it's always a pleasure to have in the studio with me a man who needs no introduction, a man that I like to say was born on a plantation, and fought his way out of there without Harriet Tubman, without anybody coming to get him. He fought his way off the plantation and ended up Dr. Eldridge Henderson. That means he's got survival skills, having survived not only the Delta plantation, but survived the Vietnam War and still became Dr. Eldridge Henderson. He's book smart, street smart, a man of courage. Doc, it's always good to have you here, sir.
Well, thank you, Mr. Socrates. I want you to remember one thing, that when you're down at the bottom on the plantation, you don't look down, you look up. And I always looked up. And then I looked to the right or the left and found the woods. And I said, I'm going to get out of here one day. I can't do it on the road. Got to go through the woods so I won't be seen. And that's exactly what happened, sir. I ran away at 12 years of age. Forgot about the fact that I was going to Chicago. I didn't have any money, and I didn't know the address of my relative. I just thought if I go up there and stand on the corner, I'll see her. Come behold, Chicago had millions of people at that time. And I turned around, went back home, and told my parents about it 10 years later. That's my story, sir. You have to plan to get out of bad situations. But if you can't do it the first time, you have to come back, rethink, regroup, and move the second time, or the third time, or the fourth time.
How many times is it going to take you to get it done?
Well, usually in the early days, it would take me 3 or 4 times. Now it doesn't take me 3 or 4 minutes.
You acquired that skill. Now, Doc, we have a gentleman here in the studio with us for the first time that I'm looking forward to sharing some ideas and concepts with. Why don't you introduce our guest?
Well, I want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, our guest is a man that knows more about economic development, religion, history, and he is a man from Mississippi, bred and born here in Mississippi, has a great family background. His father is a minister. He has been able to relocate, I believe, to the northern part of the country, or west, I believe it's California. Am I right, sir?
Yes, it is.
And he is a product of local schools here in the area. He attended one of the high schools in Jackson, and I believe he was over at Jackson State University for a while and other places. And he is a real man that is self-independent, and he knows a lot about talk shows, podcasts, and he is a great orator, ladies and gentlemen. I learned from him years ago when I moved to Jackson back in the 1960s. And his name is Mr. David Mosley. Mr. Mosley, how are you, sir?
Well, first of all, thank you. I appreciate you greatly. I'm in the studio with a man who I respect. Didn't always agree with. I was running in circles with people who didn't like Mr. Garrett. And running in circles with people, oh, yeah. I had bad things to say about you, man. And then I had a chance to meet you. And I found out, even if everything they said was true, they left out one important thing. You were really smart. They didn't talk about that part. They talked about the other stuff they was upset about, but they didn't admit that you were running circles around them mentally, intellectually, psychologically even, I think you had a spell on them. But it's an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be here, Doc. As you know, I don't mind saying this. Sometimes when I get too haughty and I want somebody to kind of break me down, I can just call Dr. Henderson. He never fails. If I want to get knocked down a peg or two with truth, he's never reticent about showing me the mirror so that I can improve myself, and I want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Well, Doc, David is a man that has a lot of knowledge. He's, as you say, he's world traveled, but he's also involved in the struggle.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you see this community after these recent elections. How do you see the African American community progressing, or in fact, are we losing ground?
There are areas in which we are gaining ground if you look at the historical trajectory in terms of young people having access to higher education, in terms of career-oriented skill sets, opportunities, not always acquisition, but opportunities, right? in terms of technology, right? Having things at the access of your fingertips. So in those sorts of ways, people speaking up for themselves and not seeing themselves as others did, automatically humbled from birth. The conditioning and the programming is not the same when the signs were up and the dogs and the lash and the lynching was going on. But on the other end, Dr. Garrett, Mr. Garrett, Dr. Henderson, black leadership is economically illiterate, and they don't want to admit it. And if they won't admit a problem, you can't solve a problem that you won't admit. And so as long as black leadership is economically illiterate, I don't care who you put in there, they will not be able to effectively combat the system in a sustainable way. Because the system is designed to do what the system is designed to do, and that's keep us on the bottom. And every now and then we get a Socrates Garrett that can wiggle his way and figure out how to finagle and navigate the system. As soon as he figured that out, whether you were born in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, or the 60s, some kind of way, when you figure it out, they hate on you instead of at least learning from you. Now, whether they agree with you or not is secondary to the fact. If you got an intelligent, wise, and successful person in your midst, learn from them. Now, if you have a judo instructor and you want to go kicking and judo don't teach kicking, but the master teacher in your midst is judo and jujitsu, go learn from the master teacher, even if that's really not what you want to do. And I'm saying that for you. There's a gentleman over there at the tax company, TCL. He's a master in his field. You don't have to agree with everything that he's talking about. Learn from them. I'm not saying this just because I'm in front of you. I'm saying this because if we don't learn economic literacy, not financial literacy, I'm not against that, but finance is a component of economics, not the totality of it. There are economic systems that don't even have any money or medium of exchange. One of the ways we call it is farming. You know, on the farm, they don't have to use money to work with one another because economics is based on relationships. All right? So until black leadership, that's politicians, that's preachers and professionals, and the only one that can kick it off is the preacher. Because the preacher the only one that's free. He the only one in the institution that is owned, operated, managed, and controlled by black people. He has to start it. The preachers have to come together in a room once a month, 90 minutes, like the Koreans do in Los Angeles every third Tuesday of the month. They shut their businesses down and come to the meeting and they discuss how they're going to divvy up Korean economic community control.
Well, hold it right there, David. Now, David and Doc, you always said that, that we better learn how to speak Spanish and Chinese.
Yeah.
And we're going to get there. But first of all, I want to know is there an economic system operating in the African American community that's different than capitalism that we see every day? Because David started to talk about a system that you don't have no money but functions. And so is there a subculture? Is there a separate judicial system down in our community and an economic system in there that black folks utilize?
Oh, yeah, we have a very strong economic system among black people in Mississippi, in the nation, and in the world, and it's called consumerism. Black people have millions and billions of dollars, and any major document you read, they spend 98% of their money outside of their so-called neighborhood. We don't have communities outside of their neighborhood. That is a historical disgrace, and it's always been that way. And until we have our own educational institutions, the churches and community organizations, to change that status where we give everything away to others and then criticize them if they don't give us something. And they laugh at us and say, "You fool, I'm not going to give you anything. I'm going to take everything I can from you, and I'm going to continue to do it."
So how do poor people survive if they don't have a living wage and they're not getting any disability check and they're not getting anything from their inheritance and they don't have that? How do poor people survive, Doc?
Very simple. Day by day, night by night. I've known a lot of poor people in my family and other families And during the 1940s, when I was coming along in the 50s, we survived day by day, night by night. We will always say, if I'm here tomorrow, I'm going to see if we can do better, see if I can make me a little extra money. We were very fortunate during the time. We were making $2 a day. And if you could work those 12 hours and can go and work 2 or 3 hours after you get off your plantation job and make 50 cents or a dollar, that's the way a lot of black people had a chance to add a few funds in their coffers to buy a regular car, or to buy a new mule, or to buy a farm implement that you didn't want to get from the plantation owner because you were paid 4 times the price. Or you buy 2 old hoes and make a good hoe out of it. You get an old sick mule and feed him up and build him up and use him for a year until one day you're working him in the field and he'll fall dead on you just like that. That's the way they did it.
So black people experience a lot of hand-me-downs.
Exactly.
Their white master would give them shoes to wear, would give them some beat-up pair of boots, some clothes to wear. And so I don't know if black people ever got a new pair of jeans in the community when we came along. There were always big families, 8 to 10, 12 people in the family, and everything was passed down. You don't see that happening in the community right now, because that was a way of surviving and building self-esteem and things of that nature. But a young boy today, David, he doesn't have anything that's handed down to him. His number one assets in the world is his AK-47 and his pit bull. Now, when you move up to the middle class, he got rims on his car. But that's his total portfolio. How is that man supposed to fit into the society that we enjoy today?
Well, he fits in very well. He's a poster child for how to keep the thing going strong, you know. I don't know if you've seen this movie called They Cloned Tyrone. Have you had a chance?
I saw the headlines on it.
Oh, you got to, now don't get me wrong. It's some, I ain't gonna say it here, but it's some in-ish.
Okay.
So you might not be, you don't like that. I know you don't like that already.
Okay.
You carry yourself a certain way. Doc Henderson can't stand it.
Okay.
But if you can get past that in-ish that's in there in the movie on purpose, and just check it out all the way through. They Cloned Tyrone. You start seeing that guy you see on the corner, at the corner store, where you go get your fuel at, and it's 5 types that stand there, you know. Them 5 types is in every city. So while you can say lazy, shiftless, pitiful, no good, no count, and that has some how do you explain that same 5 types of folks is at every other convenience store across the country? In other words, that's not just one individual, that's some institutional stuff. That's some systemic stuff that's going on. And as long as we don't address the systemic stuff, no matter how many times we address the individual stuff, it's not going to be enough. It takes institutions to change the behavior patterns of the mass of the people. That's why this real smart guy got mad at another real smart guy who had a newspaper, and the smart guy that had the newspaper was saying some things about the other smart guy that didn't have a newspaper. And so what he decided to do is say, I'm not gonna keep listening to this other smart guy with the newspaper. I'm gonna create my own newspaper so that this other smart guy don't have the only voice in town. And both smart guys' papers are still going on in the same town. And both of them know something about economics, because you can't run a paper effectively without knowing something about economics. Even papers that stay in debt, they know how to write them off and keep their businesses going, and they maintain healthy relationships all around the towns and the cities that they live in.
Well, let's come to the economics in our community. in Jackson, Mississippi, and Hinds County, we just had an election.
Yes.
Now, to the white folk in the community, the election was all about economics.
The ones that had sense, yes.
To the black folks in our community, economics was way down low on their reason for voting. How can we change what's important in our community, in our race, to elevate economics to the position that white folks says that.
How big is your belt?
Oh,
Do you got a back room with a padlock on it? Look, you know, I had a dream now. I had a dream. I ain't Martin Luther King, but I had a dream. I had a dream that I had the power, like the Drop Squad. That's another movie I hope you can watch called The Drop Squad. I had a dream that I was in a drop squad. You know, Socrates, you know, you was helping finance it, but I had a dream I was in a drop squad. Dr. Henderson, he was behind the scenes too. He couldn't find him, but he was behind there. And in the drop squad, we had to go around and go get certain Negroes that wasn't on code, right? Not the lower, not the little Ray Rays, not them. No, not them. No. Not the Shaniquas. No. We going after the preachers, the politicians, and the professionals. We want the ones that control institutional access and function. And we got to go get them, snatch them up, and for 3 days, we put them in a room and re-educate them. It get rough up in there now. Ain't no phones, no cameras, ain't no microphone, no stage. You hear me? It's black in the room. It's black. It's real dark up in there. Even if all the lights on, it's dark up in that room. You hear me? And my point is, the re-education of the leadership is necessary, not the laity. The leadership is the problem. The leadership is, as long as the elders who not dictate, elders who do not control the economics of their community cannot dictate the destinies of their community. And we have a generation that is 65 and up that's looking at the guy with his sagging pants, the tattoo on his face and neck, the woman with some Sukiyana sexy red madness going on, and looking at them thinking they're gonna make the change to save the grandbabies. But in fact, it's only one generation that's here that can actually make the changes to save their grandbabies. And that's the one that says, I'm tired and I don't want to deal with them. So as long as we got that imbalance, it's not going to get fixed.
well, let me ask Doc. Doc, he seems to be saying that the elite is the problem, that our middle class is really the causing black folk to not rise beyond where they currently are. And you and I have had lots of conversations about that. The elite. James Meredith said the elite was the problem 20 years ago. And yet, we don't seem to be making any progress in solving that. Is there anything that can be done?
Oh yeah, always something can be done. And it's gradually being done, to your surprise and my surprise, in Hinds County. A good example will be the supervisor's race. Currently, we had 5 incumbents. In January 2024, we're going to have 3 new members in the supervisor position in Hinds County. That's good news. You will find the problem we have with these incumbents, usually when they're in the preacher position 5 or 10 years, when they're in an elected position in the judiciary 5 or 10 years, or any other appointed position politically, they usually get in a position where they think they are in charge of something. And they don't have the ability to do what they're supposed to do leadership-wise, and don't have the common sense to do like you're supposed to do when you don't know anything, delegate to someone that does. And then you give direction, monitor what you tell them to do every 2 or 3 weeks, and make progress. For instance, and then I'm going to conclude.
Yeah.
If you're in a position, an appointed position, or elected position, and you're a politician, for instance, and you don't have monetary funds to do what you're supposed to do in your community, if you know how to do research, you can find government foundations that can solve any problem you have in your community. Big problem, little problem, large problems, and all you need to do is pass some kind of law, set up some guidelines, create proposals, get the money from nonprofits, banks, other funders, capital funds, international funds, and you can solve any problem in your city, in your county, in any state, north, south, east, or west, with good leadership, if they don't learn how to delegate.
Well, let's talk about good leadership. And you brought up Hinds County. I'm reading the article in the paper here that says that the Hinds County Board of Supervisors made a loan of $17 million to help white folk build a parking garage over in Fondren. They passed bonds. That means that you and I as citizens are responsible for paying that. They put $17 million over there in the white community to build a parking garage. Then the next week, they spent another $17 million to build the new jail. Now, that's $34 million that they passed bonds to finance. No black folk are anywhere in this $34 million.
Well, except the jail.
They will be in the jail, but they will have nothing to do with the construction of this project. Now, how can that be in a city? And we complain that we don't come out to vote, that we have apathy. But how can it be that you're going to spend $34 million and black folk are not involved? How is it that Socrates Garrett is not involved in this project, both on the garage and both on the detention center? How is it that Williams, Asphalt and Pavement, General Williams, is not involved in these projects? How is it that our black engineers are not, architects are not designing these projects? All white folk get all of the money. All black folk pay bills. I don't know.
I can tell you what is happening, and it's nothing new. I know we have a break coming soon, but the real news is, I've already heard this, a lot of the European Americans in Hinds County in Mississippi have already met with all the newly elected black officials in Hinds County. They've already told them what prices they want, and according to one source, they have been promised certain things. We'll stop it there.
Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to come back to it because we're going to talk about economics. We're going to talk about what's wrong with it and how it's being mismanaged and give examples. You're watching Socrates Garrett Live. We're up against a hard break, and so we want you to stay with us, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you dreaming of becoming an entrepreneur, but you're not sure where or how to start? At Entrepreneurs Academy 101, our online program will guide you step by step on how to start and grow your own business. We offer courses such as how to write a business plan, how to create a budget, and so much more. Our online training program is designed for you to learn at your own pace, and there's no set order to complete this program. Because our academy is online, you have the choice to learn with a group, with friends, or individually. Upon completion of the entire curriculum, you will receive a certificate of achievement to acknowledge that you have completed the training needed to become a successful entrepreneur. So enroll today to design the life that you love. Contact your entrepreneur coach, Brenda Myers, at 601-672-0695 or visit our website at www.entrepreneursacademy101.com for more information.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
The Mississippi Link is an African-American female-owned newspaper with a trusted voice that is highly respected throughout the city, state, and nation. Our motto, keepers of the knowledge for people who speak the truth, since 1993. Link significantly influences the thoughts, attitudes, and buying decisions of its readers. Call us at 601-368-8481 for your advertising needs. If you would like to receive a newspaper in the mail each week, our annual subscription is only $52 per year. That is only $1 per week for you to stay informed regarding many stories that you can only get in the Mississippi Link. Sign up today at themississippiLink.com and click on Home Delivery.
Socrates Garrett Garrett.com is a diversified firm specializing in recycled aggregates and crushed concrete. Socrates Garrett.com's recycled materials provide the construction industry with significant economic and environmental benefits by recycling clean concrete rubble into M.Dot grade rock materials. Recycled aggregates and crushed concrete can be applied to driveways, road construction, bank protection, parking lots, general bulk fills, and more. For more information, please call 601-896-0084 or visit us online at SocratesGarrettENT.com.
Welcome back to Socrates Garrett Live. We're broadcasting live from right here in Jackson, Mississippi. Mississippi, a state that's in the major news all of the time for all of the wrong reasons. All of the wrong reason. We're not having any announcement about industry relocating here. We're not having any great announcement about diversity. This is the place to be. We had a recent election right here in Mississippi. Was red before the election day. Is red after the election day, and it's going to be red in the foreseeable future. Now, there are some blacks that think we made some progress in this last election because we had greater turnout than before, but the absolute results remain the same. 97% of all of the department heads in the state of Mississippi are non-African Americans. 90% of all of the people that are incarcerated in Mississippi are African Americans. And we keep having those kinds of dichotomies in the state of Mississippi. And until leadership changes, and I don't know if it ever will, it hasn't changed up to this point. So you just can't keep praying that same prayer that your granddad and your grandmother 20 generations ago prayed, the same prayer that somebody's going to come get us and elevate us and take us away from this pain. We can't keep praying that same prayer. We got to have a strategy.
With the prayer. Right.
With the prayer, that's fine. But if you just got that same prayer that my grandmama prayed,
and no work.
That deal, we ought to know by now.
We need some work.
That the chariot swing low ain't coming.
Right.
It ain't coming down here to solve these problems and this pain that we're feeling by being shut out. And let's get this clear. This is not about racism. This is about economic parity, economic equity, so that my quality of life is as good as anyone else. I have no desire to live in Rankin County amongst white people. I am perfectly content and loving to live around black people. So this ain't got nothing to do with racism. It's just that I don't need these potholes. I don't need all of these house break-ins. I don't need all this high crime that's going on that's a result of poverty. Now, Doc, we were talking about some issues that are going on in Hinds County, and David was talking about this economic system. And I gave you an example of $34 million that went to white folks, allocated by black folk in the last board meeting. Not long ago after that, 5 black men on the Hinds County Board of Supervisors awarded a garbage collection contract to Waste Management in a county that's 85% black. I once heard the mayor say if the 90% of your city is left-handed, you ought to have some left-handed jobs for those people. Now, I need you to tell me what is going on here with our folk, and why can't they correct this stuff?
Well, you have to understand, Mr. Socrates and Brother Mosley, you cannot expect change from people that have been brainwashed from the point where they believe you're supposed to continue as in the past. When black folks were not politically conscious and did not have the opportunity to serve, their leaders then were totally white in the supervisor positions, city councils, mayors, judges, all. And they would pass laws to look out for their interests and their people. So when you got the so-called new leadership, black people, believe it or not, white people supported certain weak black politicians that were prone to lean in their direction. They knew them. Initially, they allowed a few to join the Chamber of Commerce, put a few in what we call city training programs where they give you a little leadership training.
Well, you cold, Doc.
And that's where they will get their Negroes from. Those people were promised things. If you go through this Jackson leadership program, this Hinds County program, this New York leadership program, we're going to put you on boards and controls and commissions. And if you accept my offer to be the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, we will let you run for mayor.
You cold, Doc.
And all you have to do is let us help you so we can help ourselves. But they're not going to say that part. So what they normally do, I'm talking from years of experience. I've worked in Michigan, Louisiana, Georgia, Mississippi,
Same game.
and Utah.
Same
And they
game.
worked in all those same problems. So when you get in those positions, you already got your Negroes trained in your institutions, with your economic specialists, with your lawyers, with your captains of industry. And in those leadership programs, if you look at the roster, you're not going to have any serious mandated black folks doing the training to those white and black people in the leadership position. You're usually going to have about 8 or 9 whites and always a smaller number of blacks, usually 7 or less. And those are the people, if you chart their career and look at their history, they are trained by their opponents. So when they get in office, all they do is call those people and say, I remember you 10 years ago. Here is a proposal. We have had this problem in this jail for the last 30 years.
Cold, Doc.
When the company that put this jail together in Hinds County or in Newton County or whatever, they put a jail together that a rat could get out at night without eyes. Then they will give these people a proposal
You cold, man.
and say, if you will help us help you, because your people are the ones going to jail, we'll correct this problem. Guess what they're going to give them? A proposal, a design, and a plan of operation, and say, we will help you get a bond issue together. We don't have the money, but we'll help you get a bond issue together. And the politician will say, I don't know what a bond issue is, but since I have this BS degree from blank blank university, I don't want to act ignorant, so I'll go along with it. And when he finds out what the bond issue is all about, that means he has to pay it himself, part of it, the politician. But they don't understand that when you get bonds, the lawyer's going to make thousands and several millions of dollars. It's not going to be the black politician's son or daughter. Then when they get the architects to put the jail together, or the school, or the airport, or whatever it is, the same thing. Then you have to go and sell the bonds. And when you sell it, I guarantee you that's going to go to those big rich boys up in New York and California and other places. And the black person not going to get anything but trouble, because he, with that limited knowledge, limited skills, that will not have the ability to delegate because he doesn't want to look stupid, he's not going to even have enough knowledge to hire someone to be the project manager for the new jail, for the new airport, for the new school, or for the new parking garage. And the people that give the proposal, that give it to the politician, say, well, we're going to handle everything. They're going to call somebody like David that has an engineering degree from blank blank university, and he's going to be the project manager. And they're going to pay him well, too. And they are going to allow David to move from California, and he's going to be put in a gated community with security, and he's going to spend that money.
Now,
On and on. And then when you get it done, he's not going to even leave a plan, an architecture to design. He's not going to know where the water to be turned off. He's not going to know how the hookups are in the garbage system. On and on and on. And they're going to leave and pay all the money in cash to the contractors. And the contractors won't be Socrates, Garrett, and these other guys you mentioned. It's going to be their friends from other southern states and northern and eastern states. So the black man that does not know how to be a leader needs to learn And since most of them are not at this point, that's been in office 2 or more terms, are not in a position to be good leaders, they all need to be replaced. And the example is Hinds County Supervisors, where you have 3 new ones. The city of Jackson people need to do the same. And I've been saying on this show and other show, Hinds County can be the state with the county with the most progressive politicians of all if they would do one thing, which they are not going to do, but I hope we can do this by talking about it.
What is that one thing?
That one thing they can do that'll change the world as far as black politicians are concerned. 3 new people, all of them are highly qualified, get saved. In January, we're going to have a new council president, one of us 3 new elected people. We're going to work together as a team, and we'll have 2 others, incumbents, and we're going to beg them to work with us. We're going to give them an opportunity to submit proposals and ideas and make suggestions. But we're going to look at who's been getting all the contracts. We're going to look at who has been submitting those proposals year after year. We're going to look at the budget. We're going to look at the inventory and find out what this city or this county actually owns.
Oh.
And we're going to look at our job descriptions and see if we need to read them or not to know what we're supposed to do.
Oh, Doc, you cold.
On and on and on. There are about 100 different checkpoints I have on a piece of document that I put together years ago.
Doc, you need to share that information with our leaders because we don't think they understand what you're talking about.
But you got to get them in that room first, Doc.
That's a fact. That's it. I've been talking to some privately in Hinds County, Jackson, and other places, as I did in Utah, Louisiana, and Michigan, and Georgia. Some of those would call, but I haven't had not one in Mississippi to call to get what I call a free consultation on what new elected officials ought to do, and those that are incumbents need to know the same thing so they can change. So a leader is made.
Yeah.
You're not born a leader, and anybody says that is just lying. You have to create that child to be good or bad or indifferent. They're just not going to be born bad or good. You have to train them.
I would say, Doc, it's not that they not such thing as born leaders. It's not that the prayer is not something that can work.
You say the prayer.
But I'm just saying that by themselves is the problem. Talent by itself without the hard work, right. Talent without the training. It's not that it's not the talent. It's not that people are not born leaders. They might be great leaders, but they don't have the tools. They haven't been taught or trained correctly. They might have strong prayer lives that can help them through the toughest situations, but they have not been educated on economics. They haven't been educated on health and wellness.
Hold on, sir. I hate to do this.
No, but help me. Come on. Upgrade me.
I'm tired of you black folks talking about what prayer going to do for you when you don't have enough sense to pray until you have trouble. Hell, you're not going to be getting anything from God if you just pray only when you have trouble, man. You got to have other things in you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So let me ask you a question.
That didn't hurt. That helped.
Let me ask you a question. So we seem to have identified the problem, and then, Doc, you offer some solutions, and I appreciate that, on the things that we ought to be doing and how we ought to select leaders. Now, we had an election.
Yes.
20% of the population is normally what we anticipate voting and experience voting. Mm-hmm. But this time we had 38.9% of the population of Hinds County, the registered voters, came out and voted, which was
almost 40%.
Almost 40%.
Almost
But then
double.
we ran out of ballots. And now you got people saying, David, that black people are so incompetent that we cost the Democratic candidate for governor the job of black people in Hinds County, the election commissioners in particular, through the race.
Well, so first, there's a lot of stupidity up in there. One, black people should not be loyal to the Democratic Party. We should not be more loyal to the Democratic Party than we are to ourselves. That's first and foremost. Black people should not be more loyal to the Republican Party than we are to ourselves. We should not be more loyal to the AME Church, the Methodist, the Baptist. We should be more loyal to ourselves than we are to any of those other things. That's the first and foremost thing that we have to get up out of there. We don't owe the Democrats no votes. Just because the Democrats say it don't mean it's good, and just because the Republicans say it don't mean it's bad. What's good for Mississippians? What's good for black folks? That's what we should be dealing with. But the leadership don't come at it that way. We don't have race-first educational agendas, race-first health and wellness agendas, race-first economic agendas. We still operate off a slave diet, slave religion, slave mentality paradigm. Until you get that to change, you're right, the prayers are going to be limited in terms of how we give them, because it's the wrong paradigm today. You're right, Doc. The way we are approaching these things is going to be bass backwards. Y'all can figure that out. Because we don't have the right mindset. So I'm not disagreeing with you on the points that you're making. What I am saying is this: the possibility of us having victory is stronger than the reality of us being behind. Doc talks about many times over a 30, 60, 90-day reality when you have the right mindset and you start striving in a certain direction. Then the literal universe literally starts answering your prayer. But your prayer is not made with your mouth alone. It's made with a change, with a transformation via the renewing of your mind. I've even heard you on multiple occasions say, it's not even about whether you like me. Sit down with me and see if we can work together. Maybe we can help each other. I heard you say, I don't always have to have the biggest piece of the contract. Maybe it's a project that you can do better on. I'll work with you. I've heard you say that. And you have not always gotten the best responses. Sometimes people don't even have the humility to just say, I'm going to sit with him. With 45 years of experience, even if I don't like you, I should at least sit with you and listen. A cup of coffee, a cup of tea, I should at least sit with you. To me, that's what I'm talking about when I say economics. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about relationships.
Well, let's deal with this issue of black folks hating one another. You referenced it several times.
Yes.
What is it in the black man's nature that causes him to not like himself and his other brothers?
Okay,
let me answer you.
Can I talk about Hollis Watkins first? He said it was fear. He said it's fear. Okay, Hollis Watkins said it's fear. All right.
It's fear of what?
No. When I asked him something along those lines, what is it to stop the black man? He said, I give it to you one word. What is it? Fear. All right, but that's Hollis Watkins.
Okay.
Keith Stamps, who I was campaigning for.
Okay.
Right. He got in the race because he said he saw the control that was used to transform how energy was used in this state. And this office was being used to undermine the city of Jackson in previous administrations. This office that he ran for, a public service commissioner, was being used to undermine the utilities of the city of Jackson. So it's not always what it is, it's how it's being used.
Okay.
I'm here to tell you, what's in our heads was placed in our heads. That's why I asked you, have you seen They Clone Tyrone? What's in our heads was described as a Willie Lynch-ism, right? You know, people spend more time arguing over whether the authenticity of the letter as opposed to what it's making reference to. These Willie Lynch-isms, right? These things that are put in you when you are dealing with Stockholm Syndrome. You know, you seen Beauty and the Beast, didn't you? Mm-hmm. You remember Beauty and the Beast? That Beast took that woman, that little damsel, and locked her up in the room. He locked her up and he fed her and he put her in some and by next thing you know, she saw him as a prince. You remember that? Mm-hmm. And you know, if you lock somebody up in a room long enough and you feed them, all right, and you clothe them and you shelter them, all right, and you get them to speak your language, then you know they start seeing you as their savior.
Well,
ain't that amazing?
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Maybe that's what's going on here now. But I'm gonna get right back to you about. There's something in here that keeps the black man and woman from loving one another. Now, either it is the things that divide us, the things that divide us. And I need to get right into it. What are those things that divide us and causes us not to care for one another?
It's very simple. And it's been going on way before 200 years. This started in America in the late 1600s, and it's called meritorious manumission.
Oh, Doc, you called.
And then...
Because what's it called again, Doc?
Meritorious manumission.
And if you read the...
Is that some desire to please your master? What does that mean?
It is
It's a reward system.
that little John Doe here has potential. So when the people that hate you see that you have potential, they pretend to love you and get you to start thinking that you're a little better than your other peers, that you are significant to them, and I love you, so therefore I want to look out for you. Therefore, if you have anything going on in our environment, among your people, that's going to hurt you and hurt me, the boss, you tell me, and I will give you something in return. Better clothing, let you ride the horse instead of walking. I would even put you on the plantation in the cotton field and let you weigh the cotton, even though you can't count, you just write some marks on there, on the piece of paper. We'll figure it out later, because you know they're not paying anybody. Or I would be nice to you, and every year when I get new clothing, I'll give you my top hat. And if you do this 2 or 3 times, Mr. Mosley, Mr. Joe, and Miss Mary Ann, I am going to give you a big-time position. I'm going to let you work in the house as the chief cook. And you can stay in the house and bring your daughter with you and let her sleep in the bed with my wife, and she's going to be the foot warmer. That is history. Meritorious manumission, where you do something to hurt your people, to elevate yourself and get an insignificant reward, and then you're like a proud peacock walking around on a plantation with the whip in your hand, and you think you're the captain.
Now, Doc, let me ask you a question, because I get that, and I get that coming from our historical perspective and how we were indoctrinated and colonized and those things. But I don't know how that applies to 150 murders in the black community, with blacks killing blacks, in a community where white man does not live.
I can have an answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we need one.
Well, the European people have said all along that we are going to be outnumbered if we don't control these black folks. They have been very good at controlling black people since 1572 in the so-called Americas. So what you do when you get out of line, you have to use your forces, whip people in line by killing them, scalping them, raping them, castrating them, and then condemning them publicly and say, this is what happened when you don't do the right thing. And of course, if they continue, they have 2 other institutions that's going to control the black people. One is the police. In the old days, it was the militia, patty rollers, as you call it, and the court system. And since we don't have very long, those items of control were Americanized through the laws on the local, state, and national level, including the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all of them.
Don't forget they were shipped to South Africa and to Israel,
too. Of course, that's right, and it happened right now in Israel. And the last thing, when you have those things going on, the white folks say, now we got them trained. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If you Negroes come to our community and start shooting, I'm going to use the police against you, the military, and the prison system. But you can kill all your brothers and sisters you want, and we're not going to do anything about it. And that's exactly what the young people are doing here today.
But don't leave out, Joy DeGruy Leary has post-traumatic slave syndrome. book and workbook that we can look at for answers to these problems. Also, the work of Naeem Akbar and Thomas Parham, both of them are psychologists with the Association of Black Psychologists. Wade Nobles as well deals with this work of how you redo the mind of groups of people in small groups. And that's where it starts, in the mind.
But you're going to have to come back, and we're going to have to explore that some more.
Yes.
I got one final question. We're going to run just a little late. Doc, there's a concept out here that says all elected officials ought to get paid minimum wage.
Well, if you did that, it would be the best thing ever happened in the history of politics in America, and let them get on a scale where when you do good, as far as meeting the goals of your constituents, economically, politically, socially, you will get an incremental increase.
Oh, that is a good idea.
Up to 200%. If you don't make a dent in the change,
Stay at minimum wage.
we are going to keep it at minimum wage and have you recalled out of office.
We're out of time. It's always the time flies over here. We need more time, but we got other programs that are coming on after us, so we gotta go. But now, if you've been watching us on Facebook, you go on and share this program with your friends and family. YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget We Believe Radio. Go to We Believe Radio and hear some of the best music that you can ever hear. Soft soul, gospel, contemporary gospel, jazz. Curtis Williams over there behind the controls, him and Herman Taylor. You'll hear that voice of Herman Taylor that reminds me of his father, who had probably the best voice of anybody in the state of Mississippi. And so Herman the Third is coming right behind him, and they're doing a wonderful job out there. Doc, your parting comments before we get out of here, you and David both.
Well, I want to thank David for coming on. He left California to come back to Mississippi, or was it Chicago, sir?
Yeah, I was in Detroit, then went back to Los Angeles, and then came back here.
And then back here to Mississippi. So I just want to thank you for coming. And naturally, we hope you come again. But ladies and gentlemen, if you want to contact L. Henderson with the Real News Show, it's called Organize, Don't Criticize. All you have to do is call us at 601-201-1957 or email us at clu369@gmail.com. And folks, you need to learn the non-radio and television version of Organize, Don't Criticize. We're not going to tell you everything you need to do because the enemy is waiting to get that knowledge. We are not like the NAACP, the big religious denominations, I'm talking about the big ones, that go to their convention centers, their hotels, and give all that free information out about their plans for the next 30 days. They don't do long-term planning, but we don't tell you everything on this show. We want you to invite us to your home, your school, your community, your political conventions, your religious institutions, and we'll speak with you and tell you how you can change your life, your status, your community in 30, 60, or 90 days, guaranteed.
David.
Well, first and foremost, it's an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be between two gentlemen whose intellect I respect tremendously and whose level of success is undeniable. Thank you for the invitation, Doc. Thank you for allowing me to come. I appreciate that you have the studio here. And I also want to thank you, sir, for being an example. Even if people don't like you, they ought to have enough respect for you to say you have your own business that you run, you hire people that are local and are qualified, you even train folks, and your business has been going for 45, 35, 25, and 15 years, depending on which business we talking about. So congratulations on the Socrates Garrett enterprise, and I hope that your example spreads to many more of us. If you're looking for me online, you can find me at RBG DNA 365. That's RBG DNA 365.
Well, that's it for this evening. Stay tuned, you stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Good evening.
Looking for the hottest content in the city of Jackson and surrounding areas? Check out WeBelieveDigital.com. also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. We Believe Digital Podcast is here for all your podcast